Huddle is actually my third startup. So I've done two before to varying levels of success. So I always knew I wanted to run another business, and this one has thankfully been the most successful so far. They've got bigger and better each time. So it's taken me, I guess Huddle is now 4 years old. It's taken me 10 years to get to this point, but it's going very well. And I think really the inspiration for the very first one, which then became the inspiration for the second and then the third, was all from family and from, I've got an entrepreneurial family who've always run their own businesses, and I always knew I wanted to do that myself. And the big one for Huddle is we wanted to change the world. So it's the entrepreneurial background plus the desire to really make a difference and change the way for a Huddle in the case of helping people to work together online in the cloud. And we wanted to use technology and the web to change the way businesses can work together. And that kind of desire to change the world plus the entrepreneurial background, I think, is what got me to this point. I think there have been several eureka moments. Many of them are either on the toilet or in the shower. You have those moments where you realise that you've had 50 ideas, hundreds of ideas. I think my friends told me this was idea number 66 that they'd counted. And they're very pleased that this one is finally working. So I think that the eureka moment comes when you've got an idea that you realise has a couple of things, really. First of all, it's timing. A lot of it is in timing, the perfect combination of timing for your idea to come to market. And for me, that was the new technologies that were coming out of our social lives now being used in the workplace. And we realised we could use the web and the cloud to help people work together in business in more effective ways than they could ever do before. So it's timing was a big thing. Then there's personal, so there's experience, and you feel you've got the know-how and the experience to be able to launch a business successfully. And then the third thing is the people around you. So I think you realise that you've found a co-founder. Huddle there's two of us, Andy McLaughlin and myself. He now lives in California, and we run the business with 80 to 100 people now in London, California, and soon in Boston. And finding Andy, meeting Andy, and enabling Huddle, the vision, to come true was a big part of that. I think there's a couple of interesting lessons that we learn, and they're all stories that have come from other people, actually. The first thing is, before you launch your business, it's a bit like the Indiana Jones film. I think it's called The Leap of Faith, where you're about to walk out over a big chasm and you think there's nothing there, but as soon as you start walking, you realise there is actually a path that's becoming available to you. So it feels like you're about to walk off a cliff, but actually, when you start going, it's one step in front of the other. So that initial urge to jump off the cliff and keep walking is the big one. Now, once you get over that, then you need, I think it's a bit like the analogy is climbing, right? When you're climbing, I used to do quite a lot of rock climbing, and when you're on the wall, you always need 3 or 4 points of contact, both hands, both feet. And that's basically family, your friends, your business knowledge, and money. And if you can get away with 2 or 3 of those, but if you get down to 1, you're going to fall off, right? So it's about having all of the things in place that enable you to start the business. And I was very lucky to have very supportive family and friends. I'd met Andy, and the last one is therefore money. And we'd saved up all of our life savings to launch Huddle. We put it all into building the first prototype and to get some people involved and working on the business with us. That got some customers and enabled us to raise some angel or seed investment from a guy called Charles McGregor. He'd been an entrepreneur himself. And in fact, the story is a really nice one. He'd got his first funding from my best friend's grandmother, who herself was an entrepreneur. And she'd funded him 20 years ago with a crazy idea. He'd built a very big business and sold it. And when he'd heard that someone very closely connected to his investor, his original investor, was starting their own business now 20 years later, he said, well, I can give these guys the leg up that I was given at this age. And he's now our chairman, he's been our biggest supporter. And that's a really nice story about how you can get the support at crucial times, both in terms of advice and mentoring, but also in terms of money to build your own business. And I hope we can do exactly the same thing when we're very successful and exit Huddle ourselves. Being your own boss is fantastic. This is my third startup, and I did 2 when I was straight out of university, and then I went to work for another business doing a startup within another startup that was very successful. We grew a very big business. At the end of it, I was running a team of 300 people in many different locations, and that showed me how successful you can be in running your own business, and decided to do it for myself a third time, and Huddle has since grown on to be very successful off the back of it so far. So being your own boss is fantastic. I think you are definitely, some people love it, some people hate it, but I love it. I think it's the desire that you can change the world yourself, and you can control your own destiny, and you can get things done really quickly. You don't have to ask permission. if you've got a gut instinct about doing something, and you can take advantage of that and do it very fast. So Huddle is, as I said, is our third startup, and the first two I did right out of university. My first bit of advice was don't wait, just get on and do it. Whether you've gone to university, whether you're still in school, whether you want to go to university and you want to do it before, just get on and do it. The first two ideas and businesses that I worked on, I think would have been very successful if I just carried them on and had a bit more confidence. I thought that I was too young, I didn't know what I was doing. The honest reality is I'm still making loads of mistakes now, 10 years later, and you learn every day, but you learn by doing it. And actually some of the best ideas and the best successes I had were when I was much younger, and you're naive and you don't know what you're doing. So my biggest and first bit of advice would just get on and do it, because that's the best thing to get started as soon as you can. Look at the great entrepreneurs of our lifetime. They all started very, very young. So that's the first bit of advice. Second bit of advice is make sure you've got all the support points you need around you: family, friends, somewhere to live that you can fall back on when times are hard and you're eating beans and bread out of a tin, and the last thing is obviously money. Inevitably you do need some money to start. Now, not everyone has access to that, but there are sources of it, and by leveraging your contacts, by networking, by showing your idea to as many people as possible, you'll attract people who think your idea is a great one and will help you to get started. So Huddle is now 80 people and growing very rapidly. We're tripling in size every year. We've got offices in San Francisco, in London, and we'll do in Boston later on this year. And obviously that's a lot of people now. We look back and we think, well, we were 2 people in a bedroom 4 years ago, then a basement in Bermondsey, and now look at us, a big office overlooking Silicon Roundabout in the middle of the city. It's exciting, and it's probably the most rewarding but challenging part of running businesses, working with people. Challenging because people are not code, they're not technology, they're not a product. Everyone works in different ways, and the biggest thing that great businesses do is they get the best people, and people do their best for the business. And we're very lucky to have some amazing people at Huddle who are changing the way people work together. And it's the most rewarding because when you see it working and you see things that people are doing that you could never have done, and then it's the most exciting thing. And there's an old boss of mine gave me a great bit of advice, which is always hire people better than yourself. And we've tried to do that at Huddle. We have a lot of people who are a lot better than us, and they are making Huddle an amazing business. Huddle is an online business. It's a collaboration business that helps businesses to share documents and work together online. The biggest market for that is actually in the US, and now increasingly in the Far East, in China and Japan. We started it in the UK, but we very quickly realized that a lot of our customers, 30 to 40% of them, were coming from the US. And that's where the big investors are, that's where a lot of the big companies we want to work with are also based, out in Silicon Valley, in Boston, and so on. So we realised we needed to have a presence in the US. So we undertook trade missions with UKTI to go and visit San Francisco, to Washington DC, where we work with the US government, and to Boston, and got to know the markets out there, and then launched our offices a year and a half ago in San Francisco. And that was very exciting. We've since got US investors who put in a lot of money into Huddle to grow it in that market, and we'll probably be raising more money again this year to grow even faster in the US. So it all starts with getting to know the market. My co-founder Andy has moved over there, so you have to be totally committed to it, but it brings huge dividends because that market is 5 times the size of the UK market. We can raise money over there, and we can now grow internationally off the back of it.